I'm David Simpson and I'm the Managing Director of Melbourne HR.
My name's Sean and I'm the HR business partner at Melbourne HR.
I'm Nathan, I'm 24. I've been working out Melbourne HR for about 14 months now. HR consultant.
I'm Olivia and I'm an HR consultant with Melbourne HR.
My name is Tanika and I am a HR consultant at MHR.
I'm Alexandra Archieri and I recently just started the job as a HR consultant at Melbourne HR.
My name is Samantha Moore and I am an HR consultant at Melbourne HR.
I think it's important because now more than ever, the relationship between people's personal life and their professional life is mixed.
Because these are people and they have lives to live, and workplace is part of the stresses of that life, so it's important that they emphasise and be part of the solution to the problem.
I think it's important because people spend 1/3 of their lives at the workplace, and you don't want to go to work feeling stressed, sad, overthinking.
Because it makes work enjoyable, and for me personally, when I enjoy coming to work, I'm a better worker.
When you feel positive and good about yourself and mentally well, then you're able to work better, you can build better relationships with people.
Help your work productivity, helps you connect with friends and connect with your co-workers and any other clients.
We are all human, so we do need to show empathy towards each other, and I think mental health goes a long way in the workplace as well, especially when you are looking after your employees' well-being. They'll reciprocate that to you as well in the workplace.
Well, it's a tough one. I think dealing with burnout is both preventative on one side, and then about dealing with the after effects on the other. I think when it comes to burnout, I think recognising those early signs is key.
This is something that I'm always working on. I definitely don't think I've got it down pat, but pretty much I always know and I can realise when I am reaching burnout, and I think that's important to know first and foremost.
I think it's important to connect with friends, connect with co-workers. If you're struggling, reaching out is really good, not just, keeping it to yourself.
I think going for walks, listening to music is probably the key. Just putting on your favourite song, just taking your head away from that workplace is probably the best solution.
I like to spend my time doing things that I enjoy, which is, I don't know, a cliche, pretty obvious, but that includes sort of hanging out with my friends and family and my dog especially as well, because they take my mind off of work, especially if I do experience any stress at work. That's usually pretty helpful.
I just try to work in a way that doesn't overwhelm me, so I might write out everything that I have to do, and then I can mark it off and feel a sense of fulfillment in getting that done. And then also I always try to make sure I have time to step back from my work and maybe just relax a bit and not take myself too seriously for a moment.
We like to see people, using their annual leave, having work-life balance, not working on the weekends, not working till 10 o'clock at night, 5 nights a week. We do our work, we leave it at work, and then we go home and we get that time to, really reset and recharge.
I think it's pretty obvious when someone's behaviour changes quite drastically, but someone doesn't always show a massive change. There's definitely people who are good at hiding it.
Especially as mental health has been so stigmatised up until recently, I suppose, that it can be difficult to recognise when somebody is dealing with something.
Change is a good one. If you're seeing a definitive change in the person's behaviour or the way they carry themselves in the workplace, that can be a signal of a change in their personal life.
And I think it can often be really subtle and small, and the signs can be hard to pick up. But I think by regularly speaking to the person and often just asking them how they're going, it's sometimes people can be really afraid to just ask that question and maybe afraid of what answer they might get, but that's often the best thing.
In my experience, it's always very subtle signs. Maybe they're overworking themselves too much, or they seem like they're doing a bit too much, too many things.
I think it's important just to see how their personality, if it's changed or not. I know someone who might be normally really talkative at work, they might be a bit quiet, a bit standoffish than usual. So just, I guess, maybe not address it in front of everyone, but maybe message them later on and be like, hey, is everything okay? Noticed you're a bit quiet, a bit different.
I think if you notice someone communicating differently via, it could be email or phone call, I think that's probably the first sign. Also their productivity as well with work. If you see a reduced workload and they're not performing well, I think that could be a sign as well.
You've got to change the situation. We see a lot of this. We see a lot of employees sit in a circumstance that they're not happy with, and it changes that individual, and it affects both their work life and their personal life. And sometimes that can be extensive, particularly if they sit in that situation for a long time. So you need to change the circumstances that you're in.
I think you need to be quite pragmatic about it. If changes need to be made, think about what changes you would like.
I think when you're unhappy in your workplace, that's just kind of a time when you need to start looking at how you're doing your work and the sort of work that you're doing, and seeing what exactly you could change about it to make it more enjoyable to you.
I think the most important thing is just to speak up, really. Beyond that, there's often great resources out there that are free. We often recommend people to go and get a free mental health care plan from their GP or just their medical practitioner.
A lot of people are understanding as well, so managers, myself as well, personally, I'll always be there for someone if they need to talk.
So I think it's important to reach out to people. We've got David and Sean here who are very approachable people. So if you have any problems or you're concerned about anything, they're really approachable. So speaking up to them, or even maybe communicating it with one of your co-workers, they might also be in a similar position to you and you had no idea.
Definitely, I think, speak to your employer or a manager if you feel comfortable. Going back to what I said, I suppose that's why you do need that relationship and rapport with your employees, so they do feel comfortable coming to you.
No one's a professional when it comes to talking about this stuff, but encouraging people to speak up is probably the first step to making a healthy environment. You don't want them to just overthink and build up a lot of thoughts in their head. You want them to openly speak up about their problem.
I think if you are able to feel like you're friends with the people around you, or at least you have a level of trust in them, then it might be easier to share your difficulties and hear from them, because they might be in the same situation.
New people coming into the business as well who are more well versed in mental health, I suppose, from their studies. They have so much knowledge and experience to share in that sort of realm. That's also important to take their feedback on board and then build that into the culture that you may already have, or a culture that you might want to change.
So it's not like you have to be professional or scared to say anything. So just making the environment, I guess, comfortable for everyone, so if they do want to speak up, they feel okay to do so.
Making time to have conversations, for sure. I know when working remotely, having a Zoom call or a Teams meeting where it's just debriefing for the week or just catching up is definitely one of those ways to kind of get people talking.
I think by being an accepting environment, so often it falls back on the culture, and people say, well, what is culture? And culture at the end of the day is how we do things. So when we I guess look at culture and how accepting of people's mental health states and possible issues they might have going on, it's always about, well, how do we deal with that? How accepting are we of it? So that's absolutely critical.
It is up to a top-down approach. You do need to have management, both senior and middle, actively participating in that process, creating those conversations to begin with, so that hopefully over the long term that engenders an openness, upwards, sideways, whatever it happens to be within the organisation. But it is definitely a more forced process to begin with, and I think that can sometimes turn people off going through with the process or sustaining the process, feeling that somehow it's not natural or it's forced. That is the beginning, and it may be awkward. You may have maybe a more traditional culture in your organisation, but it's important to persist with that process so that you can create that longer term, more open culture.